All right, welcome back to the HuntLeague podcast. I am sitting with Rich Mays from California. People say there's no good hunters in California, but Rich, you're proving people wrong every day. Uh, you are a finalist, my friend, in the 2024 Outdoorsman of the Year. You're the last interview that we're getting to. We've already met with Brandon Anderson. We just released the Josh Katanic podcast. So it is time to hit the third and final man. Now, Rich, you have a son.
I do.
That is how old?
He's 33, so right around Brandon's age.
So Brandon is that 32, 33. Katanek's that 34, 35. So you are the old man in this group. You could be their dad. I don't know if we could call you Grandpa Rich, Daddy Rich. I mean, what do we call you as we start this process?
Just call me Daddy.
I'll make sure Brandon and Josh do that.
You do that.
And we'll remind them
All right,
that
Brandon.
it's biblical to respect your elders. So just,
I'm just kidding.
well, Daddy Rich, let's get after it. Let's look at the body of work that you put in, because this is spectacular. And you know, if you're just tuning in, obviously I just said this is the third of our finalists, but Rich and I have known each other over the last couple of years. Rich jumped into the Hunt League app, I don't know, 3 years ago maybe, and we kind of became fast friends. So it's always hard for me to feel like, hey, I want these competitions to be completely objective. And I want you to know, Rich, and everybody watching, I don't have any say in the final vote as to who wins. But what happens is all these guys that are in the app, they become my friends. Like I'm hunting with Brandon Anderson this year, this coming fall. I'm probably going to be hunting with you, Rich, this fall. We hunted 2 years ago together. Josh Katanic and I have been texting back and forth, so that it's already in the works for a 2026 hunt. And so I'm not saying if you download the HuntLeague app and use it, you're going to get to go hunt with me. And I'm not saying that you would even want to, because Rich can attest, just because you hunt with me doesn't mean you're going to get something. It probably means the opposite. But this is always fun for me to be doing this with some of my buddies. So, Rich, I'm really appreciative of all the work, all the contributions that you've made to the HuntLeague community. You're in the app frequently. You inspire people in our community, not just with your hunting skills, your dedication, your work ethic, but also with your culinary skills in the kitchen. I mean, you bring it all the way.
Thank you. Yeah. I try. I try to mix it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're the guy that likes to use every piece of meat. So if there's a little bit of tongue meat, you're reaching in that. And I mean, you're not even reaching in from the front. You're reaching in from the back and getting the full tongue out, man.
I take it all. I take it all. Tongue, heart, liver, all that. Everything. Yeah.
I ate some raw liver because all you guys in that league were talking about, man, you got to try it. It's like sashimi and all that. We got an elk down last Sunday on a youth hunt. I mean, while it was sitting on the gut pile, here's a big chunk of liver, and I was like, actually, man, I think I gotta go for this. And
Did,
took
did
a big old bite.
you did?
I did, man. I had to try it. I will tell you, I didn't think it tasted like sashimi, and Wally got on to me and he's like, well, you got to put some soy sauce or put a little rice or do something. I was like, well,
You just went full savage, huh?
yeah, I thought like, hey, the rawer, the better. The more alive that liver is, like, it's going to be there. All right. I got to dial this in because I've got a target time that we're hitting all these between 30 and 40. So let's talk
Good.
first about daily challenges. Rich, you
Yes, sir.
led the pack with daily challenges. You logged a total of 671 daily challenges. That averages out to more than 200 in each of those categories. There's invest, train, shoot. Your invest box, you checked 321 times last year. I mean,
Sounds about right.
that is pretty dang legit. I mean, you're doing something hunting related every day of the year. Your train box, 131, and that's on top of working a landscaping job. Are you checking that train box after a long day of landscaping, or are you checking that only when you've done your gym time and dedicated training outside of your job?
Only when I go to the gym in the morning, which would be like before work, or on the weekends when I'm hiking or hunting or something like that. Uh, yeah, I could literally probably check it every day. just from work, because at work I'm always doing, I'm climbing trees. I'm always in awkward positions. So I'm always in these like yoga poses, and like, yeah, or like digging trenches, or, hauling debris upstairs, or, all
I've been
kinds of
on the
stuff.
phone with you where you're like, hey, hang on one second. I'm in a ladder, holding a saw, talking on the phone. I'm like, no,
Yes.
Rich. Be
Overhead
safe.
pruning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arm workouts
Um,
all day.
and then your shoot thing, you marked 219 times, which leads the pack. Brandon had 184. Josh Katanik had 143. And I'll tell you, 143, 184. That's a lot of shooting in a year
Yeah.
already. And 219, I mean, you took the prize. And I don't know. I didn't filter this specifically in the app to see how that compared overall in the app. I know I shot in the 100 something. I didn't cross the 200 mark, but I think you probably led the entire Hunt League app as far as marking that shoot box the most last year. Out of 219 days, how many of those would be archery compared to rifle, pistol, or some other method of take?
Probably about 200 were about archery, and the rest
Yeah.
were, I mean, like, I actually had a rifle deer tag this year, so I did go out into the mountains with my rifle and went to the range a few times and practiced with my rifle. Other than that, it would be like shotgunning for turkey. For turkey, that's one shot.
Yep.
Um,
It
you
counts.
know,
Hey, just so anybody listening, one shot, you can check that box if you
well,
just take that shot.
but I did shoot two turkeys in one day, so that'd be two shots.
Two shots.
So
That's true.
two shots, right?
But it was
And
turkey load,
then,
so it hit you twice as hard.
oh yeah, they're 3.5 inch, yeah, magnums. And then for dove, obviously, I'm pulling the trigger. I don't know, in a 2-day hunt, like 250 times.
And you only hit three. That's what was so weird about
Yes, I
that.
love pulling the trigger.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go to the most ambiguous of them, which is the invest box. Like, we let people kind of define what does that invest mean. I asked Brandon, I asked Josh, because the invest box is kind of investing in yourself, investing in others. Each person can make that a little bit personal to them. In the future, I kind of plan to make that where it can be league specific. Are you practicing your elk calls? Are you practicing, something specific related to a hunt? Right now, it's up to a little bit of interpretation. So I want to ask you, what does that invest box mean to you?
I check that invest box for multiple reasons. So, like every day for work, I'm super fortunate where I work outside by myself. There's no one looking over my shoulder. There's no one around. So it's like, I get to listen to hunting podcasts all day long. So when I'm at work, I'm listening to some sort of hunting podcast from Eastman's. They've got a couple hunting podcasts, Eastman's Elevated and Life of a Bow Hunter. Listen to Hunting Full, Go Hunt. I listen to every hunting podcast that you could probably come up with. I've listened to it. On top of that, when I go to the gym in the morning, I'll put on my headphones, and I actually bought, or however you want to say it, Eastman's online courses. So they've got the Elk Collective and the Mule Deer Collective. So those are courses. They're just online courses that you just go through, and each little segment, like when I'm at the gym for an hour, I can probably get through sometimes half a segment, sometimes a couple, depending on
Yeah.
what they're talking about. But it's the whole gamut of all kinds of hunting strategies, and from scouting to physical prep, to actual hunting and calling and all kinds of stuff.
It's a wealth of knowledge because the guys that are
It's a
putting
wealth
those
of
collectives
knowledge.
together, I mean, each of those guys has 20 plus years of experience, tons of success, tons of stories. They kind of even debate some different hunting strategies. Some guys are going to want to
Correct.
go in a little bit quieter, some guys are more aggressive. And I think it really is helpful to kind of hear those different things and like figure out what works for you. And every
Yeah.
environment. I mean, you've hunted Colorado, you've hunted Arizona, you recognize that in every environment, it's a little bit different, and your strategy in one state might be different than your strategy in another.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Also, the current vice president of the San Diego chapter of NWTF. So go to monthly meetings with that. And now being vice president, there's a little more that goes into that as far as trying to get organized for our big event, which is coming up in February, February 22nd. We're having our 26th annual turkey tune-up. So I've contributed quite a bit to this year's tune-up.
Yeah, you've gotten a
As far
handful of
as
different sponsors and new people that you've reached out to that have jumped in to say, hey,
yes,
we want to be a part of this.
absolutely,
It's going to be a pretty good
absolutely.
shindig.
It's going to be a great one this year. Yeah, actually, we're this year our chapter is paying for all the hunts. So the big draw to this event is that you win a hunt at one of the city lakes where they released the turkeys here in 1991. And so that is, the cost of two hunters plus a boat rental, if you need that, is probably about $110. So there's 44 hunts that we raffle off, plus youth hunts also. So we're footing the bill for all that. So if you win a hunt this year, it's going to be free. So
That's pretty awesome. And
and
they just
then
raffle and people pay what, like 20 bucks a ticket or something like that?
yeah, so when you come into the event, you pay your entry fee. That gives you this year also, just by coming in, you get a free membership to NWTF, and then you get three raffle tickets. One of them is for the city hunt. One of them is for a guided hunt at a hunting club up here locally. They've got turkeys everywhere up there. And then the third one is for a shotgun. So for 20 bucks, you could win all of them. You could win one of the city hunts, you could win one of the guided hunts, and you could also win the shotgun if you're super lucky. But there's about 600 or 700 people that have been showing up. So hopefully this year's a little bit bigger. And yeah.
We're already touching on a little bit of conservation when you're starting there. So we'll get into conservation even more as we kind of come to the close here. But if we look at just the body of work you did with your daily challenges, you logged 671 total of those invest train shoots compared to Brandon Anderson's 362 collective or Josh Katanik's 444 collective. You distanced yourself pretty significantly with just how much daily, diving into the app, logging stuff you did. And that was one of the big things that contributed towards you landing overall on the leaderboard. You finished right in second place, but it's one of the things too that pushes you into the top three as a finalist for this year's Outdoorsman of the Year was just the daily dedication and commitment. It's impossible to ignore with how much work you're putting into this every day. So when it comes to hunting and scouting though,
Yes, sir.
activities logged, what shows up in the app is you had 18 hunts logged, 8 different scouts logged, 3 different calling, like you went just as like a caller on a hunt where maybe you're not pulling the trigger, but you're helping call. On the calling, was that turkey? Was that elk? What was the calling for?
That was turkey. So I called in
Okay.
some birds for my buddy.
Idaho, California, where was
Idaho.
that? Okay.
Idaho. And actually, and I was caller for my friend here in San Diego, even though we never called anything in.
That was your job that day.
That was that was my job that day.
Okay, so 29 total activities. That kind of ranked right above Josh's. He logged a total of 26. Brandon logged a total of 89, which is just
Yes.
absurd.
It's like he's living in the mountains.
Yeah, like that's a quarter of my year. Like I'm hunting, I'm scouting, I'm in the field. The guy lives it, and that's why he finished up at the very top. Is just his activity count was off the charts. When it comes to like looking at your season, it's not just hey, you logged a bunch of stuff and you did the work. Like yes, you did the work, but you also have to have stories that accompany the work that make it a special season. For Brandon, it was waiting 19 years to get a pronghorn hunt. That was a differentiator that made this season completely different than any other season he's had in the past. Then you have for Josh, he drew a once in a lifetime Idaho moose tag. That was a differentiator for him, and it was like his season this year compared to last year looked totally different. He was a finalist last year, but last year he didn't have any kids. And last year he was out all the time. He was getting all sorts of really cool animals, from bear, wolf, stuff like that. But this year, it was like, all right, he had a baby. He had a little bit more condensed time, but he also drew a fantastic tag and still made the most of it. So you look at his season, it's like, okay, even though on the leaderboard he finished, I think, 7th overall, where Brandon was 1, you were 2, he was 7. There's a little bit of a gap there. That moose, I mean, that makes it a special year. Like, that's a once in a lifetime deal. Then when we come and we look at your application, you win the freaking lottery
I did.
and drew an Arizona
Oh
elk
my
tag.
God. It was unbelievable. Yeah, it's everything you could ever imagine an elk hunt you would want, and that's what it was. I mean, we were chasing elk every single day from before the sun came up. They were bugling, and we would be like, all right, we hear one over here, one over here, one over here, one over here. Let's go chase this one. Let's go chase this one, you know? And yeah,
Oh,
it was awesome. It was
I'm
awesome.
jealous. There's nothing like it when you're just living in and amongst elk and they're doing what you expect or hope or dream elk to do. You got to have that experience, which is what also won you a title early in the year, winning the Sweet September League, because your September archery hunt, like, everybody wants to be rich this year. It's like we all wanted that experience. And it wasn't just, hey, yeah, you got a lucky tag and you shot a big bull. Like, nobody cared about, it wasn't a size of an animal. It was like, man, the whole story. Like, it made it special. And that's what we're looking for. So we know the archery elk hunt was fantastic. We know it was special. But walk me through a handful of the highlight moments from your 2024 season.
Well, the elk one is obvious, right? I mean, that was amazing. We were able to call that bull into 20 yards, a shot I have practiced thousands of times. And when he started coming in, and the first time I went to draw, my arms turned to jello. Like, literally, yeah, my arms collapsed, and I was like, "Get a hold of yourself!" And yeah, and then got myself together, pulled it back, and he actually came in and he winded me, and he turned around. Then he was on his way out, and my buddy who was calling blasted a bugle and raked a tree just so aggressively that thing turned right around and came right back and came right in the same shooting lane and shot a 20-yard shot. It was like unbelievable. Other than that, my super highlight, because it's a goal that I've been trying to achieve, is to shoot one of these bucks in San Diego with my bow. The success rate for that tag that I have is right around 3%. So they hand out 1,000 tags, and only about 30 people every year are lucky enough to fill that tag. It is super difficult to get that done here in San Diego, and I've been trying that same tag for the last 7 years, and this year it finally happened. I had a buck walk in at 35 yards, and I'm kind of hunting them like whitetails because the chaparral is so thick. Glassing is impossible. You can't glass them up because the chaparral is about 15 feet high, and then there's oaks, and it's just solid. So I kind of hunt them like whitetails, right? But I'm not in a tree. I'm not in a blind. I just kind of hide them in plain sight. So I get in the shadows of a tree and basically just kind of sit there. And due to my scouting and having cameras out there, I've figured out this path that they walk all the time. I've got them on camera like all the time, just walking on the same path. And so I set up about 35 yards from that path, and it finally happened. This buck walks out, and he doesn't even see me. I'm able to, and when I practiced archery, I practiced pulling back super slow, just because I know in
Yep.
that kind of situation, I don't have anything to hide behind. There's nothing. It's just me sitting there. I actually bring a chair out there, So yeah, it's a tough game to play.
Okay, so you're
It's
running
worked
trail
out.
cameras. You have it on you've identified a trail where you know deer are coming through. Did you ever
Yes.
get the buck that you shot on camera? Do you have him on camera before you?
No, I don't.
That's
I
what I
don't.
thought. I was like, I thought that was like, it was like, you couldn't believe it. You were shocked that like, oh my gosh, here's a legitimate buck finally.
Yeah, no, when he walked out, I was looking at him and I thought he was a spike, but like a spike with 16-inch spikes. He looked like they were elk antlers, right? I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're kidding me. He doesn't have any kind of fork because legal buck it has to be forked on one side." So he walked out and he was walking towards me. I couldn't see anything. And I was like, "You got to be kidding me. He's got these giant spikes with no fork." And he turns sideways and he's got this little 2-inch split halfway up on the left hand side. And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're kidding me." Sweet. So he comes in, he doesn't see me or smell me. The wind was good. And he takes the path right there and it's 35 yards. Pulled back and let it go. And I thought it was a perfect shot. When it hit, he turns around and there's blood coming out right where his lungs are. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, you're kidding." But like, I know I
Like,
can make that shot.
finally.
I know I can make that shot, right? I practice it all the time. So I'm like, okay, I know it's just gonna be piled up. He ran off, ran into the chaparral. I was like, he's gonna be piled up right there. So I gave him an hour, and so I go over. My arrow's right there, blood all over it, and I go to where the last place that I saw him, but there's not a real good blood trail. I mean, the blood spots are like tiny, tiny, and there's only like a few of them. I'm like, that is weird because it looked like a perfect shot, right? I go in and I'm tracking blood for just maybe only like 40, 50 yards, something like that. And then I couldn't find any more blood. And I searched
Oh,
that after that I had to just start grid searching and searching all over. There's creeks and obviously chaparral and trails everywhere, but I could not turn them up. So I shot them at 9 in the morning. It was about 1:30, and I called my friend, the only guy who knows where I'm at, who I've taken out there. Called him, see if he would come help me look, and he comes out, and we searched till dark, could not turn him up, and I was deflated. I was so
yeah.
bummed. I was like, I just don't understand why he's not piled up. It looked like
Yeah.
it hit him. It looked and it sounded like it hit him perfectly. At that point, I was just gonna notch my tag because I know that I had killed him. I know for sure. Like there's no way he's living. So I went home. I was super bummed, and I was just gonna notch my tag. I didn't. I woke up the next morning, and my wife and I were talking, and I was super bummed out. And she's like, "I'll go up there and help you out, right?" So her and I go up there, and it's an hour and a half from where I live, and then it's about a 2 mile hike in. So this is trip number two. We go up and we search till dark. Could not turn them up, and at this point I probably grid searched about 9 miles,
Oh
right?
my gosh. Yeah. So
Just
this is not
walking.
like you haven't put in a little bit of work. It's like, I don't know, I'm discouraged. Like, no, like you
No, yeah, I'm searching under every chaparral bush, every possible trail. I'm looking at my Onyx. So I'm like, okay, I haven't looked here. I haven't looked here. And at that point, I was like so deflated. So this is on Sunday, about 5:30. We leave there. We get home to my house about 7 o'clock, and I had messaged one of my friends who has blood tracking dogs.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and so when I'm up there, I don't have coverage. So I get home and I see that he had texted me. So I call him up. This is about 7 o'clock on Sunday, and he's like, "Let's go." I'm like, "You're kidding me?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Right. So I go up to his house. We drive up there. It's about 9 o'clock at night, and he's got his dog, and we hike in. as we're walking up, his dog, we're about 50 yards from where I shot him. The dog starts getting all excited, you know.
Tails wag,
He
something's happening. He's on
he
to something.
he can smell it, right? So he's like, he's on it, he's on it. I'm like, right on, you know. And so we get to the spot, and the dog follows the exact route that I was on, followed the blood exactly to where I lost it to, and then he kind of lost it. So the dog's grid searching. He's like going back and forth and back and forth, and it's pretty cold up there. So it's in a drainage. So at that point, the wind was blowing downhill towards us. The dog's going back and forth and through the chaparral, which was like we are like breaking brush, literally. Like it was, yeah, because it's super super thick. We're doing that for a couple hours at least, like maybe 3.5 hours. And at that point, we're like, okay, we need to go back to the beginning. And that's what we did. We go back to the beginning, and the dog takes off the other way, right? And I'm like, what the heck? And he goes down the hill and starts going like the opposite direction of where we were. And my friend's like, one thing I've learned with all this is trust your dog. Trust your dog. I'm like, all right, trust your dog. Trust your dog. And we start going into the brush, and there's fresh blood, like fresh. And my friend's like, your buck is still alive. I'm like, oh my god, there's no way. You
This is
know,
2 days later?
I shot him on Saturday morning at 9.
Yeah.
So I searched all day on Saturday and then all day on Sunday, and now this is Sunday night. This is
Okay.
like about midnight or 1 or something like that. And we find fresh blood. Like, and there's like a lot of blood, like a good blood trail. And so we walk, and maybe only like 20 yards after we found blood, he goes, "There it is!" And there's a deer under a bush, and his stomach's all eaten out, and like part of the legs all eaten,
Ugh.
and he's all up, lions on him, and we pull it out, and it's not my buck. It's a fresh doe kill. So we probably walked up on that lion like as he
As it
just
was,
killed it.
yeah, you got, when you're saying fresh
He,
blood, like that was fresh
yeah,
blood because that lion just killed that animal.
he just killed it. Well,
And
while we were
you're with the
like,
headlamp, right? I mean, you said it's like
yes,
midnight now. Like, I mean, this is headlamp. You're at night. This is when
headlamp,
lions do what lions do, and they're gonna go kill the
yes,
deer that's out walking. That is
it's
so
crazy.
you're probably being stalked by this lion. This lion's got you.
He was definitely in the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. While we were there, so we're like, let's get out of here, right? So we go back. The dog goes back on the trail, and he's doing some more searching. It gets to be about 2:30 in the morning, and he's like, all right, well, if he doesn't find anything soon, we gotta go. I'm like, right? I gotta work here in like a few hours. And so we go down this creek and up just a little spot where we hadn't checked, and there's a drop of blood. And about 40 yards after that, there's my deer sitting right there. He was in a creek, which was like surrounded by trees, so he was in the shade the whole time. I got super lucky.
So how far was he from last blood? Like the last blood that you saw on the night that you shot it to where you found it? Like what was that distance?
It was only like 100 yards, maybe 150 yards. It was up this
Yeah.
this little creek, and part of the reason I didn't walk up that creek is because there was black poly tubing running in that
Oh, so
creek.
I've run
So
into that before, and I know what that means. There's some kind of illegal grow going on. People are
there's some
siphoning
kind
that
of
to
right.
grow some special products.
I didn't want
Those
any. I
California
didn't want any
residents.
part of that. Yeah, I didn't want any part of that. So
Yeah.
that's what kept me from going up there. But anyways, it was only 40 yards or so, maybe 50 yards from where I didn't look. And he was in the shade, and all the meat was still totally good.
That's awesome.
So we found him probably about 2:30 in the morning, quartered him up, got all the meat, and packed them out. Got back to my house about 6 a.m. and got ready for work, and worthless at work, but I
Yeah.
showed up.
Sometimes that's all you can do is show up. Well,
Yeah.
when we're talking through highlight moments, I mean, you had your huge archery elk hunt in Arizona. Some people have already heard that story if they go back and look at some of the podcasts. I think we did those in October, November. You took home that prize. The cherry on top for this year was really getting that San Diego buck because you've been chasing that the last couple of years.
Yes.
I mean, you're a turkey man. Like typically what's in your background is a whole wall of like turkey fans. You're big time into the W or NWTF. It's a huge organization. I love that you're a part of it. We've got Brandon is big time in RMEF. Josh does, I forget what his thing is, like the Idaho, something Wildlife Foundation that he's really involved with. And then I know you do a lot with the NWTF as well as
I also do RMEF at their
RMEF stuff.
banquets. Yeah, I help out with their banquets
You got a bunch
down
of
here.
pheasants in the background. Are you Pheasants Forever man as well?
I was probably about 12, 10 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
I was going out to South Dakota every year. This was before I had shot my first deer. I was big time into just bird hunting. That's where I started duck hunting, turkey hunting, and then pheasant hunting, and never really got the itch for deer or anything like that until I actually shot my first one. I really put all my effort into trying to kill one. It was in 2016. I had tags in the past, but would go out like a couple times a year and not really anything. But yeah, when I actually shot my first one, and then I was all in because I was like, oh my gosh, this is not only do you get to hunt, but you get all this fantastic meat. Like the payoff is huge compared to like 7 ducks if you're lucky to shoot a limit,
Yeah.
or like 3 pheasants or dove. Like
Yeah.
20 or 30 dove for the season isn't going to get you very far,
No, it gets you through one Monday night football game, and that's about it.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah,
No, most of the time I do waterfowl hunting. I'll eat the waterfowl the day that I shoot it, unless you're doing like snow geese where you get a whole bunch of them. But you know, you can shoot 4 or 5 ducks and finish that off that same day. Um,
yes,
but a deer, an elk, something, a pig, a bear, any of those things, man, it hits you
yeah.
with your freezer.
The payoff is much larger. So that's yeah, I got super excited about that, and yeah, I've been super fortunate. I mean, like I said, I shot my first one in 2016, and here in San Diego, I've shot 6 bucks in the last 8 years. 5 of those were with rifle. Um, so my longest shot that I've taken with my rifle at a deer was 80 yards. I've shot a couple at like 20 yards. The first one I shot was at 40 yards. It's all close range stuff.
Yeah, that's Oklahoma hunting. Like you're in hardwoods and those types of things. Like an 80-yard shot. I mean, we would use like a 30-30 lever gun, no scope, or like a 4 power or something like that. It's not
Yeah.
like these shots that my son took. His elk was 484 this year, and it's like, no, that's a quarter mile farther than your farthest shot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I wish I had that skill set, but
Oh, me
yeah.
too. You posted a handful of hunt summaries, which is kind of like when you finish a hunt, you can kind of post something and like, hey, here's some of the details from that hunt. But you also, independently of that, posted like 45 different posts throughout the year, just updates, whether that was your food posts, some of the other things. That's compared to less than 10 from Brandon and less than 10 from Josh. I mean, so your activity on the community page, you were sixth overall in the community. So even with 45 posts and 4 hunt summaries and all the fist bumps and all the check-ins, you still came in sixth overall on the community interaction engagement stuff. But that's compared to 13th and 14th for Josh and Brandon. Well, congratulations on a killer year. Is there anything else you want to share from a conservation standpoint? We know that conservation is a big part of who you are, what you're about. I know you already kind of had a little bit of an opportunity to share some of the things coming up with the event that you're putting on. But from a conservation standpoint, what's important to you?
I really enjoy one of our other events that we do within WTF, and that's the Jake's event. So it's where we get 105 youth to come up and introduce them to outdoor activities that they might not have ever had before. So it ranges everything from archery to they get to shoot 22s, BB guns, shotgun if they're big enough, and then they've got like axe throwing, and one station is education. So they give them a little
Yeah.
education on turkeys and that kind of stuff, and that's super fun to be able to give back and introduce kids who have never even
Yeah.
maybe thought about hunting or anything like that, and it's pretty
When you're
cool
in
to
the
see
heart of
them.
San Diego, that might not be something that seems very accessible. You may not know anybody that owns a gun, shoots a bow. It's like going to a foreign
Yes.
country, going to a Jake's event.
Yeah, so it's super cool when these kids get up there and hold a 22 rifle for the first time, and they're able to hit the target, just by me showing them how to use the sights, how to hold it, and squeeze the trigger, all that kind of stuff. And the smile that pops up on their face after they hit the target is awesome.
That's so cool. Definitely appreciate the conservation work, the mentoring, you exposing young people to kind of the great outdoors and the opportunities that exist in the outdoors, paving the way for the next generation. That's kind of a phrase that I use often, is kind of this paving the way idea. And when we select our outdoorsman of the year, one of the things that we're looking to do is we want to find people that really represent what it means to be that whole package of an outdoorsman. And it's not just a person that kills the most or kills the biggest or brags the loudest, because I don't know that that represents the sport well. And I think what you do in your everyday life represents hunting, represents the outdoorsman, represents conservation, and I think you kind of paint a picture for other people to follow. So we definitely appreciate who you are. We appreciate your involvement inside the Hunt League community. The judges may be listening to this, some of the community members that are thinking, man, I would love to be a finalist in next year's Outdoorsman of the Year. So I think this time has the ability to really inspire people that are following in your footsteps. So is there anything you want to say before we kind of sign off on this podcast and head to the official live judges panel?
Well, I just really appreciate all the work that you put in, and you creating this community for like-minded people to get together, and it's been really cool to become friends with not only you but other people in the Hunt League app, people that could consider them friends. I really appreciate you, and yeah, all the work that you've put in. So
I'm excited to follow your 2025 season because I have a feeling you're not done. Like your hot streak is continuing.
let's hope. Yeah.
Hopefully, that will bring you out here this fall. It looks like you have enough preference points to draw one of my favorite units. So I have a feeling there's going to be some level of interaction going on this fall. I might be on the other end of a bugle tube, hopefully bringing a Colorado Giant within bow range for you. So
That would be
we shall
awesome.
see.
That would be awesome, buddy. That would be awesome.
All right. Well, good luck as you advance to the finals. And we're going to know here real soon who gets to wear that crown of the 2024 Outdoorsman of the Year.
Good luck to Brandon and good luck to Josh.